In the autumn of 1925, Europe witnessed one of its most glittering royal unions. Princess Mafalda of Savoy, daughter of King Victor Emmanuel III of Italy, married Prince Philip of Hesse in the grand halls of Racconigi Castle. Mafalda was known for her grace and warmth, while Philip carried a noble German lineage, uniting two powerful dynasties in a time of fragile peace between nations. The ceremony was steeped in tradition, attended by royalty, dignitaries, and high society from across Europe. Guests described Mafalda as radiant in her bridal gown, a symbol of elegance and diplomacy, though history would later test their marriage with tragedy. In 1925, their wedding stood as a moment of celebration, hope, and the promise of unity between Italy and Germany. November 1926 brought a fairy tale union that captured all of Europe. Crown Prince Leopold of Belgium and Princess Astrid of Sweden were married in a civil ceremony in Stockholm and, a week later, in a grand religious service in Brussels, two ceremonies that celebrated both national tradition and heartfelt romance. On that November morning, Astrid appeared in a fashionable satin gown and heirloom lace veil. Flanked by royal family and glittering jewels, a portrait of 1920s elegance that immediately became the style of the season. Brussels poured into the streets for the procession, cheering crowds, military honors, and a banquet that confirmed the couple as symbols of renewal for a continent still healing after war. Their marriage was remembered not as a mere dynastic match, but as a genuine love story between two young royals, whose brief, shining happiness was seared into public memory. November 5, 1927. The air in Naples trembles with expectancy. Beneath the soaring arches of San Ferdinando Palace, two hearts, linked by royal blood, distant yet destined, prepare to unite in a bond that will echo through halls and history. Prince Amadeo, Duke of Este, tall, somber, yet brimming with hope, meets Princess Anne of Orleans. Oh, a woman radiating dignity, kindness, a legacy of monarchs in every graceful step. In the morning's daylight, Florence blooms in lace and silk, Anne's veil drifting like a whisper, jewels catching shards of sunlight. Around them, kingdoms converge. Fathers, aunts, cousins, the weight of dynasties rests upon their shoulders. Yet for this moment, all that matters is love. The religious rite at the Basilica of San Francesco de Paula, incense rising, choir voices layering in sacred resonance. Naples itself seems to hold its breath. Thousands line the streets, cheering, waving, caught between tradition and the promise of the new. And when the couple emerges to the balcony at Capodimonte, hand in hand, the crowd's roar becomes a wave, the city's heartbeat given shape. In that fragile light, two lives entwine, not just for power, prestige, or protocol, but for love that must carry them through triumphs, trials, and the sweeping tides of a changing Europe. Summer of 1928. London wakes with the shimmering promise of change, a modern world trembling on the cusp of glamour, art, and daring design. At St. Margaret's, Westminster, Joan Redhead walks toward her future, her steps echoing on ancient stone, a hush drawn across the gathered crowd. Her gown, by the young Norman Hartnell, soft ivory satin faintly glows in the morning light. Crystal bugles, pearls, and silver thread catch and scatter the sun as if the sky itself were celebrating. And when Joan and John stand before the altar, a society wedding no longer just about prestige, but about art, individuality, and the new voice of fashion in the age of dawn. Every stitch, every bead is a declaration that beauty too can be bold. In that fleeting moment, tradition softly collides with innovation. Oslo, March 21, 1929. A hush falls over the ancient cathedral, a breath held by a people who have waited for a princess, for a prince, for a moment when history touches the heart. Crown Prince Olav of Norway, the heir to the throne, stands tall. His eyes steady on Mirtha of Sweden, whose smile carries both resolve and tenderness. Mirtha, draped in a veil of lace and saint-like purity, walks down the aisle, 8 bridesmaids trailing like echoes of joy, 2 page boys clutch dreams in their palms. The church glows with daylight, stained glass filtering hope, as royal cousins take their places and kingdoms whisper through every whisper of silk. Royal Central. And when they emerge into the brisk Norwegian air, hand in hand, the Vasa tiara glinting like a promise, the people see more than royal robes and gilded crowns. They see hope that love might bind nations, that tradition might bend toward kindness, that 2 souls could become a place where home is made, a kingdom, a heart, a story to echo through time. January 8, 1930, Rome rises before dawn, its ancient stones glowing in frost-touched light. A new chapter for 2 young souls ready to carry the weight of dynasties and hope. Crown Prince Umberto, heir to the throne of Italy, strong, poised, aware that history watches. Princess Marie José of Belgium, radiant, graceful, bearing both the gentleness of her homeland and the resolve of duty. Outside, Rome's breath catches. Thousands line the streets in silent celebration. Oil lamps glowing in windows, the air full of winter fragrance and expectation. When they emerge, Crown Prince Umberto and Princess Marie José hand in arm, the world sees more than a wedding. They see the promise of continuity, of love braided with legacy. A union begun in the chill of January, warmed by hope, destined to echo through crowns and hearts. In the summer of 1931, in the grand shadow of the Carpathians, there stood a palace echoing with promise. Princess Ileana of Romania, youngest daughter of King Ferdinand and Queen Marie, walked down the Isle of Sinai, heart both proud and heavy, hand in hand with Archduke Anton of Austria. And when the ceremony ended, Ileana and Anton emerged into the soft dusk. Crowds cheered, flags fluttered, and the future seemed to open before them like a doorway. In that fragile hour, 2 lives were joined not just by royal vows, but by hope for peace, for continuity, for love that might survive whatever the world would bring. October 1932. A soft autumn light bathes the historic castle of Coburg, as though the world itself pauses for what is to come. There, within cold stone walls warmed by anticipation, stands Sibylla of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, her veil a luminous lace whisper, her soul quiet with longing. Beside her, Prince Gustav Adolf of Sweden, proud, composed, aware of the weight tradition places on gentle hearts. Outside, cobblestones echo with the steps of well-wishers, flags flutter, whispers rise into cheers. Sibylla, in white, holds a bouquet of lilies. Gustav Adolf in his uniform stands with steady strength. In a world still shadowed by uncertainty, here is a union that offers something rare: hope, beauty, unity. And when they walk down the aisle together as husband and wife, the sky seems to exhale in light. In that moment, the past and the future meet in their hands, 2 lives intertwined, 2 souls made one. Coburg will remember, Sweden will remember, the heart will remember. September 8, 1933, the air around Friedensborg Palace is hushed with expectation, the kind only great moments can summon. Princess Caroline Matilda, granddaughter of monarchs, steps down the aisle of the chapel, her gown shimmering with silver thread, her tiara a halo of sapphire and diamonds, as though the sky itself bestowed its blessing. When Caroline Matilda and Knut emerge, hands united, the world outside erupts in kindness cheers, church bells, waves of light across the courtyard. In that instance, beyond the crowns and ceremony, there is something deeper: hope, love, a promise carried forward through time. November 29, 1934. London is wrapped in the hush of dawn. the air crisp with winter's promise as Westminster Abbey opens its great doors. Through gilded arches and stained glass, Princess Marina of Greece and Denmark enters, a vision of silk and silver brocade. Her gown a shimmering whisper of hope against the cold stone. Every step she takes carries the weight of history, of kingdoms, ties that bind across seas, and the dream of a union beyond borders. In the soft light that follows the aisle when they emerge, Duke and Duchess, the world holds its breath. For in that fragile moment, love doesn't just bind them, it lifts them. It transcends crown and lineage, speaks softly of peace, of new beginnings. The world watches, but that day, their hearts speak most loudly. May 24, 1935, Stockholm Cathedral glows with golden light as Princess Ingrid of Sweden glides toward her future. The hush is broken only by the rising of incense and the soft rustle of silk, as Crown Prince Frederik, heir to Denmark, waits with a heart ablaze. Two nations watch, breath held, even flags seem to lean in. Across two weddings, two souls pledge themselves not only to each other, but to ideals beyond themselves: loyalty, grace, courage. And when the music fades, and through the chapel doors they emerge, crowds cheer not just for royalty, but for something pure, the resilience of love, the beauty in simplicity, and the promise that even a private chapel can hold a public hope. 1936. London feels heavy, a crown upon the brow, but a heart divided. King Edward VIII, newly crowned, walks the gilded corridors of Buckingham Palace, aware that a choice stretches before him: the throne or the woman he loves. Vollie Simpson, American, twice divorced, radiant under social shadows, waits quietly beyond protocol, beyond the court's cold expectation. And in some small, lonely chamber in December, with the world watching, Edward will say words that echo beyond his time. He cannot carry this crown without the help and support of the woman he loves. He gives up the throne. He gives up the throne for her, for Wallis. In that surrender lies a story more powerful than ceremony, a story of love forever altering history. June 3, 1937. Château de Condy, France, a place of shelter, of soft twilight, of whispered promises. Edward, once king, now Duke of Windsor, arrives at the secluded sanctuary, his heart both heavy with sacrifice and buoyed by love. On this day he is no longer bearer of a crown, but bearer of truth, stepping away from a throne for her. Wallis Simpson, radiant in Mainbocher's tailored silk, walks toward the man she loves, each step a defiance of expectation, each breath a victory over taboo. The gown, the hat, the blue shade made just for her, symbols not of rebellion, but of beauty, courage, and an irrepressible longing to belong. When they emerge from the chateau gates, hand in hand, he does not wear the crown, but she wears his devotion. And that day, love does more than capture a heart. It reshapes a destiny. January 20th, 1938. Cairo awakens under a blush of dawn, the Nile's mist whispering against palace gates as Egypt stands poised on a breath. Farouk, hardly 19, draped in the weight of youth and the whispers of destiny, waits. Safinaz Zulfikar, a delicate grace clothed in silk and lace, steps into the hall that shimmered with gold. Veiled in dreams, her heart both fierce and tender. In the marble halls of the palace, vows are spoken not just of love but of hope, for unity, for modernism, for a reign that might bridge tradition with tomorrow. Outside, the city pulses. Citizens cheer in the streets, banners wave, fireworks bloom against the desert sky. And when they emerge, Farouk beside Farida, it is more than a wedding. It is a promise steeped in radiance, fragile yet alive, a young king offering his heart, a queen born of his people, and in their joining, the world watching Egypt's dream unfold. March 15, 1939, Cairo dawns in gold. The Nile's light glimmers on Abdin Palace, where history is poised in embroidered gowns and whispered promises. Fauzia, radiant, young, bound by bloodlines and by dreams, steps into a world of velvet gates and jeweled expectations. Mohammad Reza, Crown Prince of Iran, stands before her, proud, hopeful, shadowed by the weight of empires. They exchange vows not just of love, but of dignity. In that solemn moment, Fauzia and Mohammad Reza give more than their promises. They give hope for harmony across lands, for futures made richer by union. And when they emerge together into the sun, the world sees not merely a royal wedding, but the poetry of destiny fulfilled. December 28, 1941, Beverly Hills in winter, palms whisper under moonlight. Hollywood's facades glitter against a world at war. Gloria Vanderbilt, not yet 18, steps into a gown made for dreams, silk and lace trembling like a promise, her heart beating with both hope and rebellion. Her veil catches the soft light. Her stars made not of diamonds alone, but of courage, in choosing love on her own terms. Outside, the cameras click. Inside, laughter and music weave a tapestry of elegance against uneasy times. And when vows are exchanged, it isn't just about rings and formal promises, it's about a girl claiming her place, daring to believe in tomorrow. In her eyes, a future not defined by legacy, but by her own truth. This night, she is radiant, sovereign of her own heart. January 10, 1942, a small white church in Ballard, California, hushes under the soft light of a winter morning. She is 19, a fledgling actress with a southern smile. He is 21, already a star on the move. They arrive not as spectacle, but as two young people clinging to a private moment in a world suddenly at war. Outside, the world is uncertain. Headlines speak of war and rationing. Inside, laughter and soft music stitch a shelter around them. They promise one another everything a heart can ask for: fidelity, laughter, hope, and for a night they are simply two souls daring to believe in tomorrow. Soon, the bright lights of Hollywood and the pressures of fame will pull and fray what they begin here. But in that small chapel, with a corsage and a whispered vow, there is a moment untouched by history, a moment of youth, of courage, and of fragile, unforgettable love. March 17, 1943. Vaduz wakes beneath a sky streaked with the weariness of war, yet today, there is a fragile promise: love. In the ancient stones of the St. Florin Cathedral, Georgina von Wilczek, tall, composed, her veil kissed by candlelight, steps forward. They exchange vows, simple, sacred, unadorned by spectacle. This is a promise in its purest form. When they emerge, the hush outside breaks into applause, not for crowns, but for love that refuses to wait. In that moment, amidst war and uncertainty, hope finds a name: Georgina and Franz Joseph, married in Vaduz, proving that even in darkness, two hearts can light a world. March 20th, 1944, London. The city's skies heavy with the drumbeat of war, yet today, a fragile oasis of hope. Peter II of Yugoslavia, exiled king, stands in dignity at the embassy door. Beside him, Alexandra, a princess born in Greece, heart trembling with both love and loss. They vow themselves to each other, not just in beauty or promise, but in shared fragility, of nations torn, of families displaced, of crowns without thrones. When they emerge, hand in hand, into a bitter world, the silence breaks, applause, flashes, tears. And in that breath, even war steps back, letting love stand sacred under fragile skies. June 15, 1945, Los Angeles. Just as the world begins to breathe again after years of turmoil, Judy Garland, heart full of song and soul raw with dreams, stands in her mother's home in Wiltshire, radiant in a gown that seems both modest and transcendent, silvery lace, pearls resting like promises, every stitch woven with hope. Outside, Hollywood still hums, spotlights, photographers, whispers of plot and performance. But inside, there is a quiet, fierce sacredness, two souls tethered by art, by longing, by the fragile dream of peace. Judy's smile trembles with both joy and the weight of her journey. Vincente's steady hand holds hers across a threshold neither of them fully understands. February 10, 1946, Los Angeles, still quiet from wartime's shadow, the city breathes a note of beauty. Jackie Robinson, a man of promise and courage, stands before the altar. Rachel Isiam, nursing student, radiant in white lace, steps forward into a life unknown yet envisioned with fierce hope. They exchange vows under that roof, hands clasped, voices steady, hearts alive. And as they step beyond the doors, into whispered applause, shuttered cameras, uncertain roads, they carry something indelible, a love that's intimate, a partnership forged in respect, and the unwavering belief that together they can stand taller than what society allows. This is not just a wedding, it's the seed of change. November 20th, 1947, London, a city still healing from war's deep scars. Westminster Abbey rises in solemn grandeur, lit by candlelight and the soft whispers of hope. Princess Elizabeth, young, determined, walks toward a future both personal and royal. Her gown, created under the constraints of rationing, becomes a symbol not of luxury, but of resilience. Each seam, pearl, and silk blade a testament to what survives after the darkest years. Sky History TV channel. And when they emerge from the Abbey, hand in hand, the balcony frames them, Elizabeth glowing, Philip proud, two young souls carrying burdens and blessings alike. The world outside bursts into cheers, not just for royalty, but for a future made possible, for love standing steadfast beyond the shadows of hardship. June 10, 1948, Athens, heavy with history and hope. Michael, once crowned king, but now exiled, stands in the throne room of a palace that echoes with whispers of what was and what might be. Across from him, Anne of Bourbon Parma glides into his world, her gown embroidered. Soft light dancing on her train, the Greek key tiara crowning her as if to say that heart and title need not align to define beauty. And when they emerge together, Michael and Anne against a gathering dusk, it is more than a wedding. It is an assertion of identity, of love in exile, of loyalty in limbo. There, under Athenian sky, two souls marry and in marriage make their stand. Even when crowns fall, a true heart remains sovereign. September 29, 1949, London still carries the soft echoes of war's memory. The world is in reconstruction, hope, fragile but stirring. At St. Mark's Church in Mayfair, George Lascelles, heir to Harewood, stands beneath golded light, artfully stern, his heart full. Marion Stein, a pianist whose fingers conjure music even in silence, walks toward him in a gown that whispers elegance, her train trailing hope across familiar stone steps. They emerge hand in hand into the chill London air. Photographers flash, applause rises like wings. In that moment, Marion Stein becomes Countess of Harewood, and their union becomes a quiet beacon that even after turmoil, hearts can heal, love can endure, and new chapters may be written in gentle, courageous script. April 28, 1950, Bangkok breathes in the first light of dawn. The palace gardens are hushed, dew on petals, soft golden rays touching lacquered wood and silk draping. Sirikit steps forth, delicate and poised, her gown shimmering with ivory grace, a bride born not only of lineage but of dreams of a nation still finding its voice. Outside, the city gathers, the promise of modern Thailand leaning toward tradition, the hope that in their union, peace might flourish, dignity be affirmed. It is when vows are exchanged, the world holds its breath. And when they emerge, side by side, the nation sees not just a wedding, but a pledge of renewal, of grace, and a love that will echo through the centuries. May 10, 1951, Cairo dawns under a sky heavy with expectation. Abdeen Palace gleams in gold and ivory, banners flutter in warm air, and the people watch with breath held. King Farouk, worn by years of sovereignty and scandal, meets his bride, young Nariman Sadek, barely 17, radiant, unresolved, stepping into a throne's shadow. They exchange vows, voices steady, eyes careful. Outside, crowds cheer. Inside, hearts swell with hope that love might reconcile what politics has torn asunder. And when they emerge king and queen, it is both spectacle and solemn truth. That in their union lies both brilliance and fragility, and that their story will be told not just in soap and silver, but in the echoes of time. 1952, a Europe still stitched with scars of war, yet here in Beaulieu there blooms a moment of grace. Archduke Felix of Austria, born into exile and legacy, steps toward Princess Anna, Eugenie d'Arenberg, daughter of noble lines and soft courage. Under gentle skies, they stand before family, amid the quiet dignity of titles and tradition. Outside, gardens murmur with breeze, petals drift like whispers, noble guests gather in muted finery, hearts filled with both elation and longing. They exchange promise, to honor one another, to carry forth their histories with kindness. And when they emerge husband and wife, light touches them as though blessing. In that rising warmth, the promise of a better tomorrow glimmers. That love, even in displacement, can root deep, that hope can grow in exile, and that perhaps peace in its own time will return. Rhode Island. The sea air hums with expectation. In St. Mary's Church, under vaulted ceilings and soft light, Jacqueline Bouvier steps toward her future, elegant, poised, wrapped in a gown of ivory silk and lace that whispers of dreams. Across the aisle, John Fitzgerald Kennedy stands with a mix of confidence and tenderness, his heart echoing with both promise and pressure. They emerge into bright daylight, cheered by the crowd, stepping into a story larger than any single life. In that moment, bride, groom, family, strangers all understand something rare. This is not just the union of two people, but the beginning of an American myth. The future waits, the world watches. Love takes its first stride. September 25, 1954, Switzerland dawns with a silent hush, mountain air carrying the scent of pine and promise. Audrey Hepburn, luminous and graceful beyond her years, steps into a quiet lodge, her tea-length gown a whisper of lace and timeless elegance. She is delicate, poised, daring, choosing simplicity over spectacle. Her dress, puffed sleeves and satin bow, a creation of pure Balmain, becomes more than fashion. It becomes expression of Audrey's confidence, her joy, her love. The world outside holds its breath, yet here there is warmth, laughter, whispered congratulations, petals drifting in gentle breeze. They emerge into twilight, immersed in soft shadows and golden glow. In that moment, mundane, magical love feels immortal. Because Audrey Hepburn decided to love, to be loved, and in that choice the world saw not just a wedding, but a beginning. April 19, 1955, Amen awakens to a sky embroidered in dawn's pale gold. At Ragdon Palace, flags rustle with the breath of promise. The air smells of jasmine and hope. Hussein, crown prince until recently, now king in spirit before many hearts, stands regal, eyes steady. Before him enters Dina Abdul Hamid, elegant, royal, a young woman stepping into both love and weighty expectation. In the chapel room, draped with gold and silk, vows are exchanged. Words carry more than tenderness. They carry hope, for peace, for dignity, for a kingdom's place in a complex region. When Dina places her hand in Hussein's, A nation watches, a people believing in its future. They emerge into the courtyard, hand in hand, greeted by cheers, by tears. In that moment, they are more than king and queen. They are a symbol, a promise that even amid old borders and new politics, love and leadership can walk together. April 18th to 19th, 1956, Monaco wakes in dawn's tender light, sea salt air trembling with expectation. Grace Kelly, Hollywood's golden darling, steps from a civil ceremony into a mutual promise, inspired now by legacy, crowned in lace and poised beyond glamour. Inside the cathedral, hymns rise. Over 600 guests, royalty, stars, citizens, gather beneath vaulted ceilings, sunlight dancing through stained glass, every breath held, every eye lifted. The world watches, not just for spectacle, but for the union of two souls born of different worlds, Hollywood and royalty, choosing love over distance. When they step onto the balcony, newlyweds, adored, transformed. Grace and Rainier are more than bride and prince. They become the embodiment of hope, of elegance, of a dream made real. Wedding of the century, the world called it, and for one luminous moment, love ruled. 1957, spring light bathes the shores of the Quai d'Azur, and beneath palm shadows and borrowed serenity, Princess Marie-Louise of Bulgaria steps into history. Her heart pulses with lineage, loss, hope. She is draped in lace and royal expectation, yet she moves with her own quiet strength. When they emerge, husband and wife under palms and sea sky, their footsteps leave impressions not just on marble, but on the hearts of those who believe that love, even among broken crowns and divided lines, can heal, can unite. In that moment, Marie-Louise and Carl stand not just together, but as living proof of continuity, of grace, and of hope. April 1958, Luxembourg City dawns softly, its ancient stones glistening in morning dew. In the shadows of the Palais Grand Ducal, Marie Adelaide, daughter of Grand Duchess Charlotte, steps into a white gown shimmering with quiet pride and gentle grace. Her bouquet fresh, her heart steady, she walks not only as a princess, but as a woman tethered to hope. She glances at him, not as princess to count, but as equal in courage. Their hands clasp. In that instant, the weight of crowns momentarily lifts. Outside, cheers spread through the square, flags flutter, spectators' breath held. They see not only the pageantry, but the promise of continuity, of connection, of love tempered by history, yet undimmed by its demands. When they emerge side by side into April's gentle light, they carry something beyond rings, a story of legacy, of gowns and gardens, of hearts that choose their own path within the frameworks of royalty. December 20th, 1959, Tehran awakens under jewel light. Snow touches distant rooftops. The sky holds its breath. In the grand halls of the Golestan Palace, Farah Diba stands, luminous in silk and lace. Her tiara, the shimmer of moonlight, her gown, a whisper of Paris couture. When they emerge, wife and ruler, bride and king, the light catches on her veil, on his metal-laden chest, on the coy smiles of onlookers. In that sacred moment, something shifts. Life becomes legend, love becomes duty, and a new chapter begins under Iranian skies. May 6, 1960, London, Westminster Abbey. The place is packed tighter than the aisles at a bargain bake sale. And here comes Princess Margaret, in a gown by Norman Hartnell that whispers more elegant simplicity than Princess Parade. Anthony Armstrong Jones, society photographer, and something of a fashion risk-taker, waits at the altar, possibly wondering if he'd better not blink. Over 300 million people tune in worldwide. For once, royal life isn't behind gates or in hush-hush whispers. It's in living rooms, black and white screens, hearts tapping like church bells. Because for all the pomp, the jewels, the tiaras, There's something quietly revolutionary in seeing a princess marry a photographer. Love meets lens, tradition meets television. And for that day, that marriage, the world leaned forward to watch. June 8, 1961, York Minster, Yorkshire. The spires are pointy, the stone steps echo, and there's more floral archways than you'd find in a gardening catalog. Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, stands straight and polished, as if his uniform came with its own stiff upper lip. Catherine Worsley, a Yorkshire girl, tote bag perhaps in hand from the local shop, walks toward him in silk gauze and a 15-foot train. Enough material to double as a royal snowbird's tent. But underneath all the ceremony and protocol, there's warmth, two people committing, family gathering, history looking on. York has its royal wedding. And for once, it feels less distant palace, more community pageant, anchored in tradition, carried by love, wrapped in silk, lace, and a very serious train. May 14, 1962, Athens is showing off. Olive trees tossing branches in the warm breeze, the Parthenon watching over everything like a very old but delighted aunt. Princess Sophia glides forward in lace and lame so bright it would shame the sun. Her 15-foot veil trails behind like royalty's version of a red carpet but with more lace. And fewer paparazzi. At least fewer than a modern celebrity wedding. When vows are spoken, it's not just I do, it's we carry bloodlines, expectations, hope, and lace. The crowd cheers. Flags wave, the heat presses down. And in that moment, Juan Carlos and Sofia don't just become husband and wife, they become part of something larger, a tapestry of royalty, of Europe, of love complicated by history. April 24, 1963, Westminster Abbey, London, stone, steeples. In more sequins than you'd find at a royal garden party. Princes, Alexandra of Kent glides down the aisle in Valenciennes lace so fine that someone probably considered bottling it as perfume. Her veil and train sweep majestically, a full dress rehearsal for every fairy tale-loving child with tutu dreams. They exchange vows according to the Book of Common Prayer, deep meaning wrapped in ceremony, rings slide on. A kiss expected but still magical. Outside, cheers. The crowd leans forward, cameras flash, television sets click everywhere. Alexandra and Angus emerge, newlyweds, royalty, adorable in their dignity. And in that moment, a lot is true, that lace does matter, that tradition has weight, but love makes the crown lighter, the eyes brighter, and the world a little more hopeful. September 18, 1964. Athens, a city of marble and myth, gears up for something even the gods might glance down at in admiration. The wedding of King Constantine II of Greece and Princess Anne-Marie of Denmark. He's the reigning monarch. She's the Danish princess who once had to wait until school was over before walking down that aisle, diligent student or patient princess. You decide. Vows are exchanged in Greek Orthodox ceremony. Golden rings, prayers, incense, hopes. Outside, the people cheer for love, for continuity, for a future the old king hoped for but wasn't meant to see. And when they emerge, husband and queen, under that warm Athenian sun, it's more than just a wedding. It's the blending of two worlds, the carrying of history, and the beginning of a story that many believe will be sung in marble forever. February 7, 1965. Athens wakes with the scent of orange blossoms and whispers. Was that the prince's heart skipping? Or just a teacup dropped in excitement? Prince Michael of Greece, part royal, part Renaissance intellectual, stands in the royal palace. Across the chamber enters Marina Kurilla, artist, sculptor, and definitely not born into dynastic privilege. To marry Marina, Michael had to give up the throne. Yes, he signed away to inherit what? In the fine print, so he could gain something perhaps more precious, the freedom to choose love over title. Think of it, a prince walking away from succession like someone passing up dessert, absurd to some, brave to others. The guests are royals, dignitaries, family artists. The bridal gown is elegant, but neither ostentatious nor overwhelming. The diamond floral tiara from Marina's own family glints in the palace. March 10, 1966, Amsterdam. The canals are silent, tulips may be peeking, and the city braces itself for more than just royalty walking into Westerkirk. It's for a union stirring hearts, raising eyebrows, and maybe even prompting the occasional Dutchman to say, "Is that German okay?" When vows are exchanged, they are not just words. They are bridges, bridging post-war wounds, expectations, a monarchy wanting unity. And when Beatrix and Claus emerge, hand in hand, the crowd cheers. Not just because of crowns or a grand wedding, but because love, even in the face of controversy, chose to show up. Amsterdam has its princess married, and a nation holds its breath with hopeful pride. June 10, 1967, Copenhagen. A mild spring wind teases the blossoms of Holmen Church. The air smells faintly of sea salt and anticipation. Princess Margrethe, heir to the Danish throne, glides down the aisle in silk and lace, 6 meters of train floating behind her like something dreams are made of. When they emerge, the couple smiles from the church's steps. The crowds cheer, cameras flash. Austria, Sweden, other kingdoms' royal cousins stand just behind the gates, as Denmark welcomes a new princess consort. And in that sunlight, Margrethe and Henrik become not only husband and wife, but a promise to the future, that love, ceremony, and tradition can still frame a modern monarchy. On the 29th of August 1968, Crown Prince Harald of Norway married Sonja Haraldsson in a ceremony at Oslo Cathedral. Harald, heir to the Norwegian throne and son of King Olav V, had carried on a long private courtship with Sonja, who was a commoner, not born into nobility, which caused some controversy in royal circles. Permission for the marriage was delayed for years due to questions of status, but Harald ultimately insisted, marry Sonja or marry no one. Sonja chose a simple but elegant dress with a large tulle veil, foregoing a tiara, and her style spoke both of tradition and modern humility. The event was one of Norway's largest royal celebrations in decades, drawing dignitaries and ordinary Norwegians alike, symbolizing both change and continuity in the monarchy. On the 16th of July 1969, Diane Hoffen married Prince Egon von Furstenberg in Montfertel-Amaury, France. A wedding that was stylish, youthful, and distinctively reflective of the era's blossoming countercultural flair. Diane, a young fashion designer then, was 3 months pregnant, so she chose a cotton gown with open-work embroidery, bright petticoats visible underneath, accessorized with a wide-rimmed, flower-covered hat rather than the more traditional tiara. The guest list, the decor, the music including a Rasputin nightclub band, they all spoke of a society wedding that was as much about fashion, art, and gaiety as about the commitment itself. Though their marriage didn't endure forever, Diane's bridal look and the vivacity of the event have remained iconic. A snapshot of how weddings can also be cultural moments, capturing the mood of time. On the 27th of February 1970, Crown Prince Birendra Bikram Shah, heir to the Nepalese throne, married Aishwarya Raja Lakshmi Devi in Kathmandu in what was heralded as one of the most lavish royal weddings of its time. Birendra was 24 years old, Aishwarya 20, and their wedding was more than a union of two individuals. It became a national spectacle that showcased Nepal's royal tradition, splendor, and its connections to the broader world. The wedding itself was held before dawn, at precisely 17 minutes to 5 in the morning, to match the stars. During the rites, guests washed the bride's feet, Offerings were made before a sacred flame, and astrological signs played their part in every decision. The event was a powerful symbol not just of royal pageantry, but of Nepal's attempt to present itself as both rooted in tradition and open to modern expression on the world stage. In 1971, two weddings stood out, one celebrity, one royal. But perhaps the most broadly remembered is the wedding of Patricia Tricia Nixon, daughter of U.S. President Richard Nixon, and Edward F. Cox. Their ceremony took place on June 12, 1971, in the Rose Garden of the White House. Tricia, having walked away from the spotlight in so many ways, chose what many saw as a perfectly patriotic, graceful setting. Her father's official residence, the manicured gardens, the white columns, all of it. Philip's family chose ceremonies and receptions that balanced tradition with modern social circles. The Habsburg fringe tiara, worn by Isabel, added a touch of old-world pedigree, while the guest list and the ambiance spoke of European interconnectedness in the post-war decades. The wedding was less about spectacle and more about continuity, alliances, and the routines of royal life carried forward into new generational shapes. In 1973, one of the standout celebrity weddings was that of Amitabh Bachchan and Jaya Bajuri, later Jaya Bachchan, in India. Their marriage took place on the 3rd of June, 1973. Amitabh was rising rapidly as a film star in Bollywood. Jaya was already known as a talented actress, and their union was eagerly anticipated by fans. The wedding was relatively private by celebrity standards, especially compared to the grand scale of many royal weddings. But it carried great significance in Indian film culture. Their ceremony blended tradition and family prestige. Many rituals typical of Hindu marriage ceremonies were observed. The media buzzed. Here was young power couple whose romance on screen translated into real-life partnership. Over time, their relationship became emblematic not just of film stardom but of durability in celebrity. They weathered fame, politics, and personal ups and downs, remaining one of Bollywood's most enduring couples. In 1974, Princess Christina of Sweden married Torrit Magnusson on the 10th of June at the Royal Chapel of the Royal Palace in Stockholm. Christina was the youngest of the four elder sisters of King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden. Although her husband was not of royal birth, the wedding was marked by regal pageantry and deep symbolism. Christina wore a gown of white silk crepe by the Middleton atelier, paired with Queen Sophia's lace veil. Because Torrit Magnusson was commoner, Christina lost her style of Her Royal Highness as per tradition. But she remained very much a public figure, hosting royal functions and maintaining her place in Sweden's national consciousness. The wedding was grand yet personal, royal yet bridging old conventions and new norms, reflecting mid-20th century European monarchies adapting to modern expectations of love, identity, and status. In 1975, one of the notable social royal weddings was that of Patrick Anson, 5th Earl of Lichfield, and Lady Leonora Grosvenor, which took place on the 8th of March 1975 at Chester Cathedral. Anson, known professionally as Patrick Lichfield, was not just a noble but also a society photographer, so every eye that day was doubly aware of light, frame, and style. There were moments of relaxed charm. Anson's photographic instincts meant there were informal shots amidst the ceremony, guests mingling and laughing between formalities, young bridesmaids trailing behind hems, and Leonora's tiara catching light in unexpected ways. The wedding symbolized not just a joining of two distinguished families, but also the continuation of certain aristocratic traditions in Britain during a time when the public was both fascinated by and questioning of privilege. On the 19th of June 1976, King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden married Sylvia Sommerlauf at Storkyrkan Stockholm Cathedral. Sylvia was a German-born translator and interpreter, and the union represented a somewhat modern touch in royal history. A reigning monarch marrying a non-royal, not born into nobility. There were notable cultural moments the day before the wedding. A gala in the Royal Opera Stockholm featured the pop group ABBA performing Dancing Queen, a song that would become globally iconic. Sylvia wore the Connaught diamond tiara at the pre-wedding gala, a sentimental piece connected to the king's mother. And on the wedding day, she wore the cameo tiara, with 6 attendants, many of them nieces and nephews of the couple. Princess Anne and Captain Mark Phillips were married on the 14th of November 1973 at Westminster Abbey. Though not 1977, their wedding remains one of the most important royal weddings of the 1970s. The event was watched by an estimated 500 million viewers worldwide as the ceremony was televised. The wedding had deep symbolic meaning. Anne was the first of Elizabeth II's children to marry. And choosing someone outside the peerage, though, from an aristocratic background, was viewed as aligning monarchy with more modern norms. The date was also Prince Charles's 25th birthday, adding extra attention. On June 15, 1978, King Hussein of Jordan married Lisa Halaby, an American-born architect at Zarin Palace in Amman. Lisa converted to Islam before the wedding and took on the name Nur al-Hussein, which means Light of Hussein. The wedding was both a personal union and a cultural moment. An American woman, highly educated and cosmopolitan, joining the Jordanian monarchy, brought together East and West in symbolism, style, and public interest. The bride's appearance was gracious, her jewelry understated, flowers in her hair rather than a towering tiara. After the official ceremonies, King Hussein proclaimed Lisa as Queen Noor, giving her the title and role. Their marriage, lasting for over 2 decades until King Hussein's death in 1999, produced 4 children and left a legacy in Jordan of Queen Noor's involvement in public life, philanthropy, and the arts. In April 1979, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who would later become ruler of Dubai and vice president and prime minister of the UAE, married his first cousin Sheikha Hind bint Maktoum bin Juma Al Maktoum in a ceremony that marked one of Dubai's earliest large-scale public royal weddings. In April 1979, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who would later become ruler of Dubai and vice president and prime minister of the UAE, married his first cousin Sheikha Hind bint Maktoum bin Juma Al Maktoum in a ceremony that marked one of Dubai's earliest large-scale public royal weddings. The wedding's scale was unlike many previous royal events in the Emirates' tents, processions, public displays, celebrations that involved Dubai's populace, from traditional dancers to ceremonial gifts. It set a template for later royal weddings in the UAE in terms of blending tradition, tribal customs, pageantry, and modern state-style ceremony. On the 31st of May 1980, Countess Gloria von Schanberg-Lorco, aged about 20, married Prince Johannes of Thurn und Taxis, aged 53, in a lavish ceremony at St. Emrem's Abbey in Regensburg, Bavaria. The marriage was widely noted both for its splendor and for its personalities. Gloria, later nicknamed the Punk Princess for her flamboyant style and bold temperament, contrasted with her husband's more traditional aristocratic standing. The guest list was full of European high society, and the fashion on display Emrys gowns, ornate tiaras, formal coats made the wedding a major social event of 1980. Over time, the couple had 3 children, and Gloria became a very visible figure in European aristocratic and socialite circles, often photographed, often controversial, but always memorable. On the 29th of July 1981, Prince Charles, heir to the British throne, married Lady Diana Spencer at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. The bride was just 20 years old, known for her gentle grace and charitable spirit, while the groom, aged 32, was stepping into a marriage watched by millions, both in person and through television screens across the globe. Diana's dress, designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel, was a masterpiece. Ivory silk taffeta, a 25-foot train, the longest ever at the time for a royal bride, embroidered with tens of thousands of pearls, lace, and sequins. She wore the Spencer family tiara, an heirloom that carried its own stories. But beyond cost and spectacle, the event marked something cultural. Diana was the first bride without royal title in over 300 years to marry the British heir, injecting a sense of relatability into the monarchy. Her youth, her charm, the public's fascination with her shy smile and poised presence created an aura that lasted beyond wedding day. Princess Margaretha Antonia Marie Felicite of Luxembourg, daughter of Grand Duke John, married Prince Nikolaus of Liechtenstein, the third son of Prince Franz Joseph II and Countess Georgina von Wilczek, on the 20th of March 1982 in Luxembourg. The ceremonies were held in two parts, a civil ceremony at the Grand Ducal Palace, followed by a religious service at Notre Dame Cathedral in Luxembourg City. The bride wore a gown typical of early 1980s royal gowns, full of ruffles at the neckline and sleeves, long sleeves, and a veil anchored by the Congo diamond necklace tiara, a storied heirloom in the Luxembourg royal family. The union produced children and tied together two sovereign houses, and over time, this wedding has been remembered not only for its beauty, but for its symbolic place, marking the end, so far, of that kind of equal-ranking marriage among reigning European houses. In 1983, one of the notable weddings in royal high society circles was the marriage of Princess Caroline of Monaco to Philippe Genet. Their wedding took place on the 28th of June 1983. Caroline, the eldest child of Prince Rainier III and Princess Grace, formerly Grace Kelly, was a fixture of European royalty and celebrity life. Philippe Genet was a French banker. Despite the grandeur, there was a lot of media scrutiny. Monaco weddings inevitably draw comparisons to past iconic nuptials, especially given Caroline's parentage, and the balance between public spectacle and private emotion was tangible. The wedding, though not without controversies and later events that would challenge the marriage, remains memorable as one of the most photographed and stylish ceremonies of the 1980s in Monaco. One of the most significant weddings of 1984 was that of Princess Astrid of Belgium and Archduke Lorenz of Austria-Este. Their union on September 22, 1984, was a notable event in European royalty, blending Belgian and Austrian aristocracy. Princess Astrid, the only daughter of King Albert II of Belgium and Queen Paola, married Archduke Lorenz, the son of the Archduke of Austria-Este and Princess Margarita of Savoy-Este. Pop icon Janet Jackson married R&B singer James DeBorge in a secret ceremony. Though their marriage was annulled the following year, Elton John married Renata Blowell in a highly publicized ceremony in Sydney, Australia, marking a significant personal milestone for the musician. These weddings, each unique in their own right, contributed to the cultural tapestry of 1984, reflecting the diverse expressions of love and commitment in the public eye. One of the most significant celebrity weddings of 1985 was that of Madonna and Sean Penn. Their marriage took place on August 16, 1985, at a clifftop mansion in Malibu, California, coinciding with Madonna's 27th birthday. The ceremony was a star-studded affair, attended by 220 guests, including celebrities like Tom Cruise, Andy Warhol, Carrie Fisher, and Diane Keaton. The reception featured crystal champagne, sushi, and a luxurious dinner from Spago, followed by dancing to Motown hits and Madonna's Into the Groove. Although their marriage ended in divorce in 1989, Madonna later referred to Penn as the love of her life in her 1991 documentary, and the two remained close friends. On the 23rd of July 1986, Prince Andrew, Duke of York, the second son of Queen Elizabeth II, married Sarah Ferguson at Westminster Abbey in London. The bride became Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of York, gaining titles including Countess of Inverness and Baroness Killalleague through her marriage. The reception and festivities followed traditional royal formalities, and their honeymoon began with a short trip to the Azores before spending time aboard the royal yacht Britannia. Though the marriage eventually faced difficulties, and the couple separated in 1992, they divorced in 1996. This wedding remains one of the iconic royal weddings of the 1980s, both for its pageantry and public interest. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, known for later fame in Seinfeld and Veep, married Brad Hall on June 25, 1987. They were college sweethearts, having met while both were students at Northwestern University, where she auditioned for one of his theater productions. The wedding took place in a church in Santa Barbara, California, which has personal significance as Brad Hall's hometown. In interviews years later, Julia Louis-Dreyfus revealed that her wedding gown was inspired by Princess Diana's iconic wedding dress, including having puffed sleeves, ruffles, and a flowing ball gown silhouette, very much in the style of the mid-1980s bridal fashion. The relationship proved enduring. Besides the wedding, the couple have gone on to raise 2 children and maintain a long marriage in the often tumultuous world of show business. One of the standout weddings of 1988 was between Wayne Gretzky, the famed Canadian hockey star, and Janet Jones, an actress and model. They married on July 16, 1988, in Edmonton, Alberta. The wedding was held at St. Joseph's Basilica, one of Edmonton's prominent churches, chosen because it was large enough to accommodate their 700 guests. Their union was widely covered in the media. The event was so grand and so beloved in Canada that it was referred to as Canada's royal wedding. Also among royal upper society weddings in 1988 was James Ogilvy, son of Princess Alexandra of Kent, marrying Julia Rawlinson on July 30, 1988, in Saffron Walden, Essex. Their wedding was attended by many members of the British royal family, including Queen Elizabeth II, Princess Diana, Princess Margaret, etc. Julia's gown was made of white Dupioni silk, full skirt, V-neck bodice, and featured voluminous leg-o-mutton sleeves with Bauza fashion very much of the late 1980s. One of the prominent weddings in 1989 was the marriage of Charles Spencer, Viscount Althorp, later 9th Earl Spencer, the younger brother of Diana, Princess of Wales, to Victoria Lockwood. They were married on the 16th of September 1989 at St. Mary's Church in Great Brington, Northamptonshire, England. Their marriage was widely followed, dubbed by some in the press as the golden couple of British actors at the time. The wedding took place in August in Buckinghamshire, at Cliveden House. Thompson later revealed that the relationship ended in 1995 following Brannig's affair. But for a time, their union was one of the most admired in UK cultural circles. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's whirlwind romance culminated in a quietly dramatic Christmas Eve wedding on the 24th of December, 1990, when the two actors who'd fallen for one another while filming Days of Thunder exchanged vows in a private civil ceremony at a Colorado ski resort, witnessed only by a handful of family and close friends. Cruise presented Kidman with a vintage-style princess-cut engagement diamond, and the couple later adopted 2 children, Isabella and Connor, while continuing high-profile careers. Although the marriage drew enormous public fascination, it lasted until their highly publicized split and divorce in 2001, a chapter that remains one of The most discussed celebrity marriages of the 1990s. On September 5, 1991, Hollywood stars John Travolta and Kelly Preston were married in a much-publicized ceremony at the Hotel de Crillon in Paris. Their romance began after meeting in 1987 during screen tests for the film The Experts. Travolta proposed to Preston on New Year's Eve 1990 in Gstaad, Switzerland, with a striking 6-carat yellow and white diamond ring. At the time of the wedding, Preston was pregnant with their first child, Jet, who was born the following year. Because their Paris ceremony, performed under the Church of Scientology, was considered invalid legally in France, they held a second wedding in the U.S. in Daytona Beach, Florida. Over many years, they built a family, 3 children, and their marriage was admired for its highs and lows, though it ultimately ended with Kelly Preston's death in 2020. One of the standout weddings of 1992 was the marriage of Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, daughter of Queen Elizabeth II and Commander Timothy Lawrence. They were married on the 12th of December, 1992 at Crathie Kirk, a small church near Balmoral Castle in Scotland. The wedding was private and modest by royal standards, with only around 30 guests, mostly close family, and a reception held at Craigowin Lodge on the Balmoral estate. Another big wedding of 1992 was between David Bowie and Iman. They were first married privately on the 24th of April 1992 in Lausanne, Switzerland, with just an interpreter and 2 witnesses present. Then, on the 6th of June 1992, they held a larger ceremonial celebration in Florence, Italy at St. James Church, attended by family, friends, and notable guests. A major royal wedding from 1993 was the marriage of Prince Abdullah II of Jordan, then Crown Prince Abdullah, and Rania Al Hassan on the 10th of June 1993 in Amman, Jordan. Rania, aged 22 at the time, was born in Kuwait to Palestinian parents and had no royal or aristocratic lineage. Their union was widely publicized as a modern fairy tale that bridged tradition and a new era of monarchy. Crown Prince Abdullah wore his formal military uniform, and the ceremony included both the pageantry expected of royalty and warm displays of popular homage from the public in Amman. The wedding became deeply symbolic for Jordan and beyond, marking the start of a high-profile role for Queen Rania, known today both for her style and advocacy work. In 1994, one of the most talked-about celebrity weddings was the union of Celine Dion, the powerhouse Canadian singer, and Renee Angelil, her longtime manager. They married on the 17th of December 1994 in a lavish ceremony held at the Notre Dame Basilica in Montreal, Quebec. Celine's wedding dress was grand and memorable, designed by Marilla and Steve Gentile. It featured a 20-foot train, and she also wore a dramatic headpiece adorned with 2,000 Austrian crystals. The ceremony was attended by many fellow artists, family members, and invited guests, and was televised in parts, reflecting how her fanbase and renown had become global. One of the major royal weddings in 1995 was the marriage of Pavlos, Crown Prince of Greece, and Marion Chantal Miller. They were married on the 1st of July 1995 at St. Sophia's Cathedral in London, England. Mara Chantal Miller was an American heiress, youngest daughter of Robert Warren Miller, and her marriage to Pavlos marked a union that captured public attention for its mix of wealth, royalty, and glamour. It was noted that more monarchs and royalty were in attendance than at some previous well-known weddings. For many, it was the largest royal gathering in London since the 1947 wedding of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. The bride wore an elegant gown that matched the grandeur of the event. Guests included royalty from multiple countries, social elites, and the media globally. John F. Kennedy Jr., the son of President John F. Kennedy and Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, married Carolyn Bessette on September 21, 1996, in a highly private, intimate ceremony. The wedding was held on Cumberland Island, Georgia, at the First African Baptist Church, or remote location chosen in part to escape media attention. Only around 40 guests attended, made up of family and close friends. This wedding became legendary not only for the celebrity status of the couple, but for how quietly and tastefully it was done. Over time, Carolyn's dress and the style of the wedding became hugely influential in bridal fashion, helping to popularize minimalist, less is more aesthetics. The marriage lasted until the couple's tragic deaths in 1999. On May 19, 1997, actresses Sarah Jessica Parker and actor Matthew Broderick married in New York City in a ceremony that surprised their guests. The wedding took place at the Angel Orensons Synagogue on Manhattan's Lower East Side. Rather than giving advance notice that it was a wedding, they invited roughly 100 close friends and family under the guise of a regular party. Both of them were already established actors by that time, and their marriage has remained one of the more enduring ones in the entertainment world. Over the years, the couple have raised 3 children together, and despite their fame, have largely kept their personal lives private. Their wedding continues to be remembered for its surprising informality, understated elegance, and unconventional style. In 1998, supermodel Cindy Crawford married businessman and former model Rand Gerber in a private, low-key yet stylish ceremony held on May 29 at the Ocean Club Resort on Paradise Island in the Bahamas. They opted for a beach wedding in front of approximately 90 family and friends, keeping things simple and intimate. The vibe was very summer weekend getaway rather than formal gala, which made the event feel personal and genuine. Over time, their marriage has been celebrated not only for its celebrity status, but for the way it has endured with warmth, mutual respect, and many shared moments, marking it as one of the more grounded, yet iconic weddings of the late 90s. One of the most talked about weddings in 1999 was when Prince Edward, youngest son of Queen Elizabeth II, married Sophie Rhys-Jones on the 19th of June 1999 at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle. The wedding was designed to be more intimate than many previous royal weddings, less pomp, more personal. Sophie smiled broadly as she walked down the chapel steps, arriving in a carriage after the ceremony. And the couple later rode through Windsor in a horse-drawn carriage to the reception at St. George's Hall. Thousands of well-wishers lined the streets, cheering the newlyweds with a visible effort to blend royal tradition with a gentler, more personable approach. One of the most high-profile weddings of 2000 was the marriage of Madonna, the pop icon, and film director Guy Ritchie. They were married on the 22nd of December 2000 in a remote castle in the Scottish Highlands, at Skibo Castle in Scotland. The ceremony drew much attention for its setting, style, and guest list. Guy Ritchie wore a traditional Scottish kilt to honor the locale, while Madonna's dress had Gothic influences and she included a tartan sash as a nod to Scottish culture. The wedding combined personal symbolism heritage, family with spectacle, celebrity, fashion, making it one of the defining celebrity weddings at the turn of the millennium. Over time, their marriage lasted several years, but eventually ended in divorce in 2008. The wedding remains iconic for the way it blended rock, pop star glamour with traditional Scottish heritage in a remote, dramatic setting. On the 25th of August 2001, Crown Prince Haakon of Norway married Mette-Marit Jesem Hibby in a ceremony at Oslo Cathedral. The wedding was controversial and highly anticipated, as Mette-Marit was a single mother with a past that included partying, admitted prior drug use, and a non-royal background. Many in Norway's conservative circles were uneasy about the match. The best man was Frederik, then Crown Prince of Denmark. After the ceremony, the new Crown Princess appeared through the balcony of the royal palace with her husband and son, as cannons fired and bands played, greeting hundreds of well-wishers. The wedding signified not just a union of two people, but a merging of tradition with modernity, highlighting changing norms about royalty, class, and public expectation in Norway. On the 2nd of February 2002, the Crown Prince of the Netherlands, Willem-Alexander, married Maxima Zorigita Cherute in a grand double ceremony in Amsterdam. The celebrations began with a civil ceremony at the Boers van Berlage, followed by a religious service at the Nieuwe Kerk. The wedding had both pomp and personal significance. Maxima, born in Argentina, became a naturalized Dutch citizen prior to the wedding. She wore a cathedral-length veil, an especially adapted tiara combining elements from the pearl button tiara and Queen Emma's diamond stars. The groom wore his naval uniform. After the religious ceremony, they processed through the streets in the golden coach, and later appeared on the balcony of the royal palace at Dam Square to greet vast crowds. The wedding symbolized both a modern, multicultural turn in royalty and a link to deeply rooted royal tradition in the Netherlands. On the 12th of April 2003, Prince Laurent of Belgium, the youngest son of King Albert II and Queen Paola, married Claire Coombs in Brussels in a two-part ceremony. First, a civil marriage at Brussels Town Hall. Then a religious service at the Cathedral of St. Michael and St. Gudula. Claire, born to an English father and Belgian mother, was not from royal or aristocratic lineage, which made the wedding a modern reflection of changing norms in European royalty. The event was well attended by Belgian royalty and members of the diplomatic corps, and the imagery from the day lace work, classic silhouette, subtle royal gifts became influential in royal fashion watchers' circles. It was the last major royal wedding in Belgium to date, and it emphasized tradition meeting modernity, heritage, family legacies, couture, paired with a less formal approach than some earlier royal weddings. On the 14th of May 2004, Crown Prince Frederik of Denmark married Mary Donaldson at Copenhagen Cathedral. Their story began in Sydney during the 2000 Olympics, where Mary, a Tasmanian marketing executive, met the Danish prince in a chance encounter. Over time, their relationship deepened, and when they announced their engagement the year before the wedding, the news resonated in Denmark and abroad as a modern twist on fairy tale romance. The couple rode in procession to Amalienborg Palace and later appeared on the palace balcony to greet crowds. It was watched by thousands lining the streets and millions more on TV, admired for its ceremony, style, and symbolic melding of Danish heritage with global connectivity. Mary became crown princess and ultimately queen, and the wedding is remembered as one of the more graceful modern royal weddings of the early 21st century. On the 9th of April 2005, Prince Charles, then Prince of Wales, married Camilla Parker Bowles in a two-part ceremony that reflected both legal formality and the spiritual blessing of their union. They first had a civil wedding at Windsor Guildhall, witnessed by close family, followed by a service of prayer and dedication at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle. Members of the royal family gathered, including Charles's sons and Camilla's children. The event also reinforced tradition. For example, the blessing was held under the Church of England's auspices, and yet modern sensitivities were evident in how it was staged, from the civil ceremony to the public's reaction. It was a wedding watched not just for its pageantry, but also for what it stood for: change, forgiveness, public perception, and personal commitment. On the 6th of May 2006, Laura Parker Bowles, daughter of Camilla Parker Bowles, later Queen Consort Camilla, married Harry Lopes, a chartered accountant, at the village church of St. Cyriacs in Lecoq, Wiltshire. The wedding was an English country affair, not a state or royal wedding in the narrow sense, but very socially prominent, attended by members of various branches of the British royal family. The wedding was noted for its charm, understated elegance, and mix of private familial intimacy with the public interest inherent to connections with the royal family. while not as large or symbolic as a wedding of someone in the direct line of succession. It was culturally significant, especially for those following the interconnected British aristocracy and eminent figures in the royal social circle. Prince Philippe, heir to the Spanish throne, married Letizia Ortiz, a former journalist and news anchor. Their union was groundbreaking, as Letizia was a commoner and a divorcee, which was unprecedented for a Spanish royal marriage. Their wedding was the first state wedding in Spain in over 50 years and was held at the Almudena Cathedral in Madrid, a venue consecrated just 11 years prior. Letizia's wedding dress was designed by Spanish couturier Manuel Pertegas, featuring a high-necked silk gown that became an iconic symbol of modern royal bridal fashion. The couple's marriage marked a new era for the Spanish monarchy, blending tradition with a more contemporary image. In 2007, as they began their family, their public appearances continued to draw media attention, solidifying their status as one of Europe's most prominent royal couples. Beyoncé and Jay-Z had been together for several years before formally announcing their marriage. On April 4, 2008, they tied the knot in a private, highly intimate ceremony held at Jay-Z's penthouse in the Tribeca neighborhood of Manhattan. The apartment was a 13,500 square foot space, which was transformed for the occasion. Only about 40 guests, family, and very close friends attended. Guests included people like her Destiny's Child bandmates, members of her family, and celebrity friends. Beyoncé wore a voluminous white gown reportedly designed by her mother, Jay-Z, a classic black tuxedo. There was no maid of honor or best man. The ceremony itself was described by those who attended as emotional and spiritual. Lord Frederick Windsor, the only son of Prince and Princess Michael of Kent, married Sophie Winkleman on the 12th of September 2009. The wedding took place at the Chapel Royal at Hampton Court Palace in London, followed by a reception in the Great Hall and then more celebrations at Ormley Lodge. Sophie Winkleman was already known as an actress, while Frederick is a minor royal, so their union combined a measure of celebrity life with royal tradition. The guest list included members of the British royal family such as Princess Eugenie, Princess Alexandra, and the Duke and Duchess of Kent, among others. The dress was selected by Sophie's mother-in-law, Princess Michael of Kent. And Sophie later reflected in interviews that while she appreciated the effort, she might have chosen differently in terms of her hairstyle and more personal touches. Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden, heir apparent to the Swedish throne, married Daniel Westling on the 19th of June 2010. Daniel was a commoner, known previously as her personal trainer and a gym owner, which added a modern dimension to the royal match. The wedding ceremony took place at Stockholm Cathedral, a symbolic and historic venue in the heart of the Swedish capital. The wedding was not just a personal milestone, but historic in several ways. It was the first wedding of a female successor, Crown Princess Victoria, to the Swedish throne under the current succession laws. It drew huge domestic interest and international media coverage, and it symbolized more modern values in monarchy by bringing in someone from outside traditional nobility into the inner royal circle. On the 29th of April 2011, Prince William, second in line to the British throne, married Catherine Middleton in a widely anticipated ceremony at Westminster Abbey in London. The event was more than just a royal wedding, it was considered a global spectacle. Often dubbed the wedding of the century, watched by billions around the world. The ceremony was officiated under the Anglican tradition and drew nearly 1,900 guests, including foreign royals, heads of state, celebrities, and family. The public spectacle included a grand procession, with carriage rides and massive crowds cheering along the route, followed by a reception at Buckingham Palace hosted by Queen Elizabeth II. For many, this wedding not only reinforced royal tradition, but also helped modernize perceptions of the monarchy by showcasing both pageantry and personal warmth. Hereditary Grand Duke Guillaume of Luxembourg married Countess Stéphanie Delanoy in a significant royal wedding held over 2 days on the 19th to the 20th of October, 2012. On the first day, there was a civil ceremony at Luxembourg City Hall, followed by a grand religious ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral in Luxembourg City the next morning. There were street fairs, thousands of well-wishers, international royal guests from various monarchies, and the event attracted widespread media coverage across Europe. The couple exchanged vows under traditions both civil and religious, and after the ceremony they shared a balcony kiss at the Grand Ducal Palace, marking their union in full view of the nation and the world. Princess Madeleine, the youngest daughter of King Carl XVI, Gustav and Queen Sylvia, married Christopher O'Neill, a British-American financier. On the 8th of June 2013, their ceremony was held in the Royal Chapel at Stockholm Palace. The engagement had been announced in October 2012 after Madeleine had lived in New York and met O'Neill there. The wedding was rich in tradition, but also modern in many respects. About 470 guests attended, among them royals from across Europe and other prominent figures. And the public turnout and media coverage in Sweden were substantial. After the chapel service, a horse-drawn carriage procession through parts of Stockholm was followed by celebrations, including a boat ride to Drottningholm Palace for the reception. The wedding struck a balance of royal pageantry and personal touches, showing how modern royalty can embrace both heritage and private values. On the 27th of September 2014, George Clooney, a major Hollywood actor, married Amal Alamuddin, an accomplished human rights lawyer, in a private ceremony in Venice, Italy. Amal is British-Lebanese and had built a high-profile legal career before meeting Clooney. The celebration included a dinner with gourmet Italian fare and elegant decor, the visuals of a motorboat ride along Venice's canals, fireworks over the water, and traditional Italian ambiance made the event feel like a film set. It was seen as one of the most eagerly anticipated celebrity weddings of the 2010s, combining glamour, privacy, classic romanticism, and international media attention. On the 13th of June 2015, Prince Carl Philip of Sweden married Sofia Hellqvist in a much-anticipated royal wedding that captured both national affection and international interest. Carl Philip, the second child of King Carl XVI, Gustav, and Queen Sylvia, had announced his engagement to Sofia, a former model and reality TV personality turned yoga instructor and philanthropist, in June 2014. After exchanging vows, Carl Philip and Sofia rode in a horse-drawn carriage through Stockholm's streets with thousands of well-wishers lining the route. The wedding banquet was held at the palace, followed by dancing. The event symbolized a bridging of tradition and change, royalty embracing more open and personal narratives. A princess not born into royalty, public celebration, and still deeply rooted in ceremony. In July 2016, the singer Ciara married NFL quarterback Russell Wilson at Peckforton Castle in Cheshire, England. The wedding was a glamorous affair, with a blend of elegance and intimate personal detail. Ciara, known for her music career and strong public image, wore a custom-made gown by Roberto Cavalli Couture, which featured exquisite beading, lace, and a long train, giving a fairy tale vibe. Ciara's music and faith played a part. Russell's family involvement was visible, and the couple made sure to include intimate moments despite the large scale. The event was widely covered internationally, admired for its fashion, especially the bridal gown, photography, floral arrangements, and the way Ciara and Russell infused their personalities into traditional wedding elements. Pippa Middleton, sister of Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, married James Matthew in May 2017 in a wedding that combined British charm, social attention, and a warm, family-centered atmosphere. The ceremony took place at St. Mark's Church in Inglefield, Berkshire, followed by a reception at the Middleton family's country estate, Bucklebury Manor, which lent a rural but elegant setting to the proceedings. The timing was also interesting. It came 8 years after William and Catherine's high-profile wedding, so comparisons were naturally drawn. But people often commented that Pippa's wedding felt more relaxed and intimate, especially given that the celebrations were outdoors, in countryside settings, with family much involved. It remains remembered as one of the most talked about social weddings of 2017 in the UK. In 2018, the world witnessed one of the most talked about weddings of the decade, the marriage of Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, to Meghan Markle, an American actress. The ceremony took place on May 19 at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, blending centuries of royal tradition with modern elements that reflected the couple's unique personalities. The guest list was a mix of royalty, world leaders, and Hollywood celebrities, including George and Amal Clooney, Oprah Winfrey, and Serena Williams. Millions watched worldwide, making it one of the most globally viewed royal events. This wedding symbolized a new chapter for the monarchy, blending tradition with modern love, and signaled the beginning of Harry and Meghan's journey that would later reshape royal life in unprecedented ways. In 2019, one of the most celebrated royal weddings was that of Lady Gabriella Windsor, daughter of Prince and Princess Michael of Kent, and Thomas Kingston, a financier. The wedding took place on May 18 at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, the same historic venue that had hosted the marriages of Prince Harry and Princess Eugenie in previous years. The day was filled with elegance, tradition, and charm, capturing international attention while showcasing the enduring appeal of Windsor as a royal wedding destination. Lady Gabriella's wedding was a graceful celebration of love within the extended royal family and a reminder of the continuity of tradition across generations. In 2020, despite the challenges of the global pandemic, one of the most notable royal weddings was that of Princess Beatrice of York, the daughter of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, to Edoardo Mapelli Mazzi, an Italian property developer. Originally planned for a grand May celebration, the wedding had to be postponed and reimagined due to COVID-19 restrictions. Princess Beatrice paid tribute to her grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, by wearing a vintage Norman Hartnell gown from the Queen's collection, along with the Queen Mary diamond fringe tiara, the same one worn by both the Queen and Princess Anne on their wedding days. Though scaled down, the ceremony carried immense symbolic weight, blending deep tradition with personal intimacy. In 2021, one of the most glamorous weddings to capture worldwide attention was that of singer Ariana Grande and real estate agent Dalton Gomez. The ceremony, held on May 15th, took place in complete secrecy at Ariana's home in Montecito, California, with fewer than 20 guests in attendance. The event reflected Ariana's preference for intimacy and simplicity after years of living in the public eye. The wedding photos, when later revealed, went viral across social media, showcasing a candlelit atmosphere filled with flowers, soft tones, and a deeply personal vibe. Unlike the traditional grand celebrity weddings, Ariana's special day stood out for its privacy, intimacy, and authenticity, symbolizing a new chapter in her life where love was celebrated not by spectacle, but by closeness and sincerity. In 2022, although many celebrity weddings were on pause or scaled down due to lingering pandemic concerns, one especially notable wedding was that of Lil Nas X and his partner, Montero Teo Hill. They quietly exchanged vows on January 20th in an intimate ceremony at their home, ensuring privacy despite widespread public interest. The ceremony was low-key but deeply meaningful, filled with expressions of identity, love, and celebration of being true to oneself. The wedding was covered after the fact, revealing minimalist decor with symbolic touches, heartfelt vows, and the significance of choosing authenticity over grandeur. For many in the LGBTQ community, This wedding stood out not just as a union of two people in love, but as a statement about love, visibility, and pride. On the 1st of June 2023, Crown Prince Al Hussein bin Abdullah of Jordan married Rewa El Satif at Zarin Palace in Amman. Hussein is the eldest son of King Abdullah II and Queen Rania, and heir apparent to the Jordanian throne. Rewa comes from a prominent Saudi family with a background in architecture and visual communications. Their engagement had been announced in August 2022. The processions included a motorcade and elaborate military honors, with the groom arriving in full ceremonial uniform. Thousands of citizens lined the streets, dignitaries and royals from many countries attended, including Prince William and Kate. The event was seen not only as a celebration of love and tradition, but also as a moment of unity for Jordan, showcasing stability, cultural heritage, and modernization in its monarchy. The wedding of Anant, Ambani, and Rodeka Merchant was widely considered as India's wedding of the year and even called India's own royal wedding due to its sheer scale, glamour, and cultural significance. The groom, Anant, is the youngest son of Mukesh Ambani, one of the richest businessmen in Asia, and the bride, Rodeka Merchant, comes from an influential business family as well. The wedding fused traditional Indian rituals with ultra-modern extravagance, days filled with rituals, cultural performances, music, dance, and evenings of opulence. It became a major moment not just socially but in media and fashion, giving inspiration for designs, floral displays, event planning globally. Princess Märtha Louise, the eldest daughter of King Harald V of Norway, married Durek Verrett on the 31st of August 2024 in Geiranger, Norway. Märtha Louise is known for her role in Norwegian royalty as well as her interests in spirituality, literature, and alternative wellness. Durek is an American spiritual guide who has drawn both strong support and controversy with his beliefs and public persona. The wedding stirred public attention not only for its beauty and setting, but also for debates around royal protocol, family approval, and how modern royals can live authentic lives. It was one of the most talked about weddings globally in 2024 because it symbolized a blending of tradition and personal authenticity, nature and ritual, royalty and spirituality.